So I want to talk to you guys today about what I use to data log this stuff when I'm doing my pulls and seeing how the car is doing. In the car, I have the OBDii scanner. I think it's an OBDix LX something. It was like $60. Trying to spend a bit of money on it. And that is sending Bluetooth to my phone. And I use the Torque Pro app to do all of my data logging and looking at stuff, my gauges. So when it comes to looking at the data, you end up getting a Excel file, right? And the Excel file is just a bunch of numbers and all those data points, which, you know, it's hard to visualize. So datazap.me is this website, and it lets you upload these logs so you can see visually what's going on. So I can come in here and let's go back in March. I did some dyno pools, so let's look at that log. Cool. So I can see my log back from all the way back in March, and I think the third pool I had my highest reading was at like 223 wheel horsepower or something like that on a Mustang dyno with the worst temperatures possible, but I did pretty well. So yeah, I have these layouts here, but at the bottom you can see like these are all the data points I'm recording. So I have like all my knock stuff, boost, wastegate, throttle position, all the data points. And then I make some layouts here to like quickly get to what I want to see. So like if I'm looking for timing events, I can see I did my pull. You see, I'm looking for my throttle position and like where I'm flat out. So I'm flat out here to there. I think this is a 4th gear pull, and my timing events got up to like 11, which is probably low because I'm probably pulling a lot of timing just because my intake temps are like started the pull at like 140. Meth is bringing it down to like 130, but overall like this, they have like a tiny little shop vac and it wasn't really doing it. If I like come down into here and look at so I can see on my pull when my turbo died exactly. I just happen to be data logging. You have to turn it on to data log. I just happen to be data logging because I was on a new tune and trying to work stuff out, but I can see exactly the moment my turbo died. So we got my turbo details, and this very last pull here is when things went south. You'll see like I'm still in it here, and like boost falls off, turbo's done, it stops doing anything, and that's when things went bad. And yeah, you figure that out. The other thing I would say about Torque Pro and like data logging in this way, it's a little easier to data log if you are tracking less PIDs. So I'm tracking a whole lot of PIDs, so my resolution isn't very high, and also being on Bluetooth makes your resolution low. If you were to use a USB connector from the OBDii port to whatever device you're using to log, your resolution will be a lot higher. So like if I zoom in here, you see it's like pretty choppy from point to point, and it means I'm like missing data points, like things in your engine are changing a lot of times in a second. So like getting a higher resolution is really important. Last night I finally got the solenoid on, so I did some pulls, did some highway driving, just testing out to see where the car is doing and how it's performing. And previously, the wastegate solenoid kind of just like snapped to wide open and like wasn't doing anything, so the turbo was kind of just like doing its own thing, not really, you know, being controlled. Now that we got that replaced, let's see, try to do a few 5th gear pulls here. But like here, you'll see turbo wastegate solenoid kind of maxes out at like 95%. It never goes to 100%, but like that's where it sits. So like here you see like, you know, it's all controlled. There's no waving up and down because previously we were getting a bunch of that, and it's just a nice curve all the way across. And then the pulls came out nice, everything's good. So comfortable that we did some 1st through 4th pulls here. And we can look at our turbo details. It's showing me the blue line, we have our wastegate duty cycle. The red line is our throttle position. We had to let off here because we hit a patch of water, so we were spinning a little bit. Green line is boost at the turbo. The pink line is the boost at the manifold. And the reason there's a difference is because one, you're losing some boost. I have some like boost pressure drop between going through all the piping and the intercooler. There's a boost pressure drop. But also, this pink line, the reading at the manifold, only reads up to about, I want to say 22 PSI. And after you're pushing more than 22 PSI, like you're not going to see any more data. It's going to be a flat line at 22. But your turbo is definitely pushing more air than 22 PSI. So it says 32 PSI here, but you're going to subtract your atmospheric, which is about 14.7. And if we do some quick maths, cool. We do some quick maths, that puts us at about like 17, 18 pounds of boost. That's about what we're getting. So we don't have a big pressure drop, which is good to see. That means the piping and intercooler is doing well. Not a big pressure drop between the 2 points. Yeah, so we did a first through fourth pull, went nice up there. I think this is not, we didn't flat out in first, but that's second, that's in top of third, top of fourth, and we came into a corner. So happy to see all of that. The only other thing I would like to talk about as far as data logging goes, make sure you're data logging the right points, the things you want to see. For me, the things I was looking for were, you know, my knock. I always try to make sure, you know, knock looks good. And you see in this whole pull, we got no knock and nothing's pulling timing. It's flat out across. Beautiful, that's what you want to see. I like to see my boost pressures and my wastegate duty cycle. Wastegate duty cycle might not be as important, but that was a problem I was having specifically, so that's what I wanted to see. You have your short-term fuel trims that are really nice, and long-term fuel trims that are nice to check out. Intake temperatures are really nice. Throttle position lets you know when you're flat out, so you know what you're looking for as far as pulls go. And timing events is nice. I track a few more things that I probably don't need to, and if I took them out, I'd probably get a little bit better resolution. But I'm happy with this until someone tells me they need to see more or less, so I'll do that. And then I send these off to my tuner, and he gets a chance to look at them and make changes accordingly. So that's how I do my data logging. If you're a nerd and like to bug out on this stuff, I highly suggest you get into data logging to see how your car is doing. So other than that, that's pretty much the whole thing I had to talk about here today. So let you guys get back to it. Have a good day.